Welcome, everyone. My name is Abby York. I work for the Environmental Leadership and Training Initiative, or ELTI, at Yale University. I wanted to welcome you again to this information session today to learn more about the Tropical Forest Landscapes Online Certificate Program. So this year-long certificate program offers a unique opportunity for environmental professionals worldwide to connect with the Yale School of the Environment to develop concrete skills, advance their careers, explore science and solutions related to tropical land management from many different perspectives. And today, I'm joined by my colleagues, Jillian Bloomfield and Liz Felker. Jillian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Nice to see so many familiar names and locations in the list of attendees today. My name is Jillian Bloomfield, and I'm calling in from outside of Philadelphia, and I work for the Environmental Leadership and Training Initiative as Associate Director for Online Programs.
Thanks, Jillian. And Liz, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Thanks, Abby. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Felker. I'm a program manager with ELTI in the online program. And for the certificate program, a lot of what I focus on is the Capstone course, which you'll get to hear a lot more about in today's session. So excited to be here.
Great. Thank you, Liz. Um, So we are very pleased today to be joined by three current and past participants who have come to help share their perspectives on how they approach the practical project elements of this program. So our participants today include two current participants, Mario Chacon and Jesse MacLachlan, and we have one past participant as well joining us from the 2024-2025 program, Anna. We will learn a little bit more about them later on, but I did want to share a quick overview of what our agenda looks like for today. So first, we will do a brief overview of the program. We'll then switch into our panel of participants and hear a little bit more from them. And next, we will open it for some questions and discussion in a Q&A session. And then the last component of today's information session will be just some closing information and additional details on how to apply. So at this point, I will turn things over to Jillian to give a brief overview of the program.
Great. Thank you, Abby. So, what are we here to learn about? This is the Tropical Forest Landscapes Online Certificate Program. The full name is Tropical Forest Landscapes Conservation, Restoration, and Sustainable Use. Over the course of 10 months, participants participate in 4 different courses: a course on the fundamental aspects, ecological and social concepts, what we call the people course that focuses on human dimensions and engagement, a course that we call the strategies course on land use planning and implementation, and then the funding course, which focuses on different financial concepts and tools. Throughout the entire experience, participants are also participating in the Capstone course, where you're relating everything you're learning and practicing project planning tools to design a conservation or restoration project. And this information session will go into specifically more detail about the Capstone project. And we also offer an optional 1-week field course in the tropics on conservation and restoration in practice. So what is this program? It's a very high-touch online program. It takes place over 10 months. It's about 6 hours of work a week, we say. It's part-time. It's meant to be done in addition to your personal and professional commitments. And right now, the program is focused in English. Who's the program for? So, a whole wide variety of participants come to the program looking for different things. So, some of our participants work for governments, private industry, and NGOs, and they're specifically working on project design and landscape management. Others are staff members from foundations, businesses, and aid agencies seeking to fund and promote effective programs. Others come to us as academics, lecturers, graduate students, or recent graduates looking to supplement their knowledge. And we also have landholders, farmers, ranchers, land managers, community organizers, and others who are looking to enhance management within their communities or within lands that they directly manage. So really, we say that the program is for anyone interested in learning to design, implement, and monitor conservation and restoration initiatives. What do you do in a given week? We have kind of this three-pronged approach. Our program has a big focus on educational content. So we have videos recorded and readings, different interactive presentations and case studies from over 80 different contributors. Sometimes, if you include the live sessions, we even have guests over access to over 100 different experts throughout the 10 months of the program. Then we also have opportunities for interaction and feedback. So there are live discussions on a weekly basis, discussion boards that you reflect on, peer-to-peer exchange, and expert review. And then there's a focus on application. So every step of the way, the participants are encouraged to reflect on how the content relates to their current and future work through self-reflections. We have many different guided exercises, and then, of course, the personal capstone projects, where you end the program with a project plan that you've developed using a variety of different tools and applying all of the different concepts in the course, in the program. There's also the optional field course. You can see here some pictures from some of the different offerings we've had in Brazil, in Philippines, in Panama, and each year the field course can take place in a different location. This year, the group that is there are currently students are going to Rwanda, and then in the application you can indicate some regional interest in where you're thinking about for the field course when you apply to the program now. As far as benefits, you can check out one of our earlier information sessions for a whole bigger discussion about this. But we've heard a lot from our past participants. We've had so many come through the program, and they emphasize how the program gives them a holistic perspective. Uh, some of them come with experience in the more natural sciences and learn more about the different social considerations. Some of them come with some of the social background, but need to really dig in deep about the land use strategies or natural management of the land, and a whole variety in between. They also mentioned the practical skills that they gain through all of the different exercises. Another aspect of the program is that what we share about this being high touch is that participants receive support and guidance every step of the way. We have an active team of facilitators reaching out, encouraging you as participants. We have peer groups that participants can guide each other, and then direct access to the lead instructors who can also provide support. And then the opportunity to build your skills through the applied capstone projects. So what do we mean by that? So during the program, you go through the capstone course where you gain access to different lectures and assignments that guide you on the principles of project planning, logical assessment, and design tools. Participants can relate everything they're learning to a real-life project on the ground or a hypothetical initiative. And there's also options to partner. So for example, if you're based in a certain spot without access to a landscape on the ground, you can partner with one of the other course participants who does have access to that, so you all can learn from each other. And then participants finish the program with a project situation model, the detailed project proposal, and a tailored presentation that they deliver to our course instructors, but that then they can go on and use in future presentations for the different audiences that they seek to address. And so you can see from this quote here, Federico from our 2023-2024 program delivery said the capstone project was transformative. The exercises and guidance from ELTI's experts brought depth and direction to my ideas. The program's mix of theoretical input and practical mentorship gave me the tools to build a model ready for real-world application. I want to emphasize that not everyone comes in with a capstone project in mind. So about half of our participants have access to or a real site or are involved personally or professionally uh, in land management that relates to a specific site that they for which they want to address their capstone project or a landscape or a region. And then others come in not necessarily certain of this. And so some people partner with an outside organization, some people partner with other participants in the programs, and some people choose the hypothetical option that LT provides. We can talk to you if you have questions about this. If you're thinking about the program and you want to explore your options for the capstone, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So what happens after the program? Past participants have shared a whole variety of ways they've put what they've learned into action. Through different planned initiatives at the landscape level, they've implemented new practices, developed a comprehensive monitoring framework, created funding proposals. Um, a really important point of feedback is how the program has helped them think holistically and critically about their conservation activities and the impacts of what they're seeking to achieve. They've developed different participatory approaches to stakeholder engagement, recognized bias, and addressed critical issues of social justice. And 93% of the program graduates surveyed reported that they had already made changes to land management practices or approaches upon completion of the program. And you can see in this quote from Rudolph that the knowledge and skills he acquired has helped him to establish new networks, deepen his understanding of the tropics, and enhance his work to manage 10,000 hectares of degraded landscapes in Tana Delta, Kenya. So now I'll hand it over to Abby to talk a little bit more about tuition and the application process.
Great, thanks, Jillian. So 2026-2027 tuition is $7,500 US. It includes 4 8-week online courses and the 10-month capstone project Jillian talked about earlier. It also includes unlimited access to all online course materials, support from mentors throughout the program, face-to-face online interaction with experts, and personalized expert advice on your coursework. Jillian also mentioned the optional field component. This does have separate tuition associated, which is $2,500 US. And the tuition for the field course includes a 1-week immersion experience in the tropics, and in-country ground transportation, food, lodging, your course materials, instructors, and all site visits for the duration of the course. For both components of the program, we do have tuition support available. So the first opportunity for tuition support is through our partial tuition discounts. These are available on a competitive basis, and they range from 25 to 75% off of the tuition fee. So in order to be considered for any partial tuition support, you would have to complete this section within the main application form. There are 2 short essay responses that you'll need to submit. And just as a note, any admission decisions are independent of scholarship requests. The second opportunity for tuition support is through the Three Karens Fellowship. So this is full or nearly full sponsored online tuition, and this is very specifically for individuals working on climate solutions in the Global South. So in order to be eligible, you need to hold primary citizenship from a country in the Global South. You need to have professional or academic experience relevant to climate solutions, and you have to be actively working on climate solution implementation. Similar to our partial tuition support opportunities, you need to complete that section within the main application. This is only 1 short essay response in order to be considered for the fellowship. And again, any admission decisions are made independent of fellowship requests. So that is just a brief overview of the costs and admissions for the program. But at this time, I'd really like to get into our panel of past and current participants with Mario, Jesse, and Anna. Mario Chacon is a current participant of the program. He works as a consultant for forest restoration. and has previously served as a carbon manager with Conservation International. He is based in Costa Rica. Welcome, Mario. Jesse MacLachlan is also a current participant in the program. He is working as a state policy and advocacy director at Reason for Hope and is the founder of the Home Tree Foundation. Jesse is based in Connecticut in the United States. And lastly, we are joined by Ana Soto, who is a past participant from the 2024-2025 cohort, and she works as the Global Landscape Forum Program Coordinator with CIFOR-ICRAF and is based in Madagascar. So with that, Liz, I will turn things over to you to have each of the panelists introduce themselves in a little bit more detail and share more about their experience in the program and their Capstone projects.
Thanks, Abby. Welcome to all of our panelists. We're so excited to connect with you today and hear from your experiences. So our first panelist we're going to hear from is Mario. Mario, we'd love to hear from you a bit about yourself and your experience in the program so far. I know you're a current participant, so you've completed 2.5 of the 4 content courses. So if you could think a bit about your experience in the program so far, what you'd like to share, and what's one insight for prospective applicants that you would like to share?
Thanks, Liz, and everybody. Good morning. Yeah, thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy with the experience with the course. So I hope that I can share, and motivate others here to enroll and participate for the next cohort. So my name is Mario Chacon. I am based in Costa Rica. I have over 20 years of experience working on conservation initiative, always around something related to forest conservation, since advising governments around RED and national monitoring systems. And most recent, I was part of the Conservation International team that was spending, their efforts on bringing basically carbon market support to conservation initiatives on the ground. And what I was doing there was basically, assessing teams on the ground on how to develop these carbon projects, right? But what I was doing when I was there, I felt the need to basically refresh and update my knowledge on restoration, because we were doing a lot of conservation, and I felt that we have felt that gap about conserving inside some protected areas, especially here in Latin America. So that's why I decided to enroll with the course, right? I was searching around and trying to identify which could be a potential online program that would let me achieve my goals, right? That again is related to updating my knowledge. Um, I want to mention that I actually have a master in conservation of biodiversity that I got 20 years ago, and where actually use some of the resources that was developed for some of the professors that are already, teaching us, through the programs and the different courses of the program. So, and I'm mentioning this because my idea was updating my knowledge. So I have these doubts. I'm going to really update something, and I really did. So, if that could be one of the insight, right? There is a very top level course with the most recent science. Everybody that serve as an advisor or as an instructor have extensive experience from the research scientific perspective, but also working on the ground. And, LT, for example, has about also 20 years, 15, 20 years training people around the world. And all that experience basically is being transferred to us somehow. I also have been a training manager in the past, and have organized activities, for different audiences. So I also learning about how you guys do an online program that, takes 10 months. It's a long time. And one of my concerns was actually I'm gonna get disengaged, in the middle of the process because it's so long, it's online, but no, not really. It's been very intense, but very, how can I say, like a very interesting learning process, because there's a little homework every week. So that keep you, connected somehow, right? Otherwise, you lose your points. But also, it's been a nice reflection because that's what I'm using for my capstone. That I would like to talk a little bit about that later. But like in summary, I wanted to refresh my knowledge on something that I have learned before, and I have learned even a lot of more new things that I was expecting. And I'm very impressed, yeah, with all the team that have been helping us. Just to give you an example, I send an email right now and it's gonna be answered a couple of hours later, so it's not that I have to wait. Oh no, now I'm gonna get delayed or something, right? So everything's been wonderful, and I'm very happy that I'm participating of this.
Thanks so much, Mario. It's great to hear from your experience. And after we hear from the other panelists, I want to come back to you and hear one specific type of knowledge that you gained that you wanted updating on and you did. So whether it was soil science or agroforestry or whatever it is, I'd love to come back to you to hear just like one example of what you gained. Um, and with that, I'm going to prompt Jesse to answer the same question. So, Jesse, thank you for joining us. Could you share just a little bit about yourself, your experience during the program so far? You're also a current participant, and one piece of advice for current applicants.
Sure. Thanks, Liz. And hello, everybody. My name's Jesse. I'm calling in from Connecticut, and it's been a real joy and pleasure to participate in this program. It's been a crash course, too, because I don't come from the conservation world. And this experience represents preparation for a potential career change for me at some point. In the future to focus on conservation in the global south and in North America as well. It came about through a series of experiences in my personal and professional life. Working in an advocacy space for mental health put me in contact with indigenous plant medicine healers in South America. And I learned about not just the pitfalls and uh, critical nature of their own their own rainforest landscapes, but also the critical endangerment of their culture and how intrinsically connected their way of life is, and their oral tradition of plant medicine knowledge and how it's passed down in oral tradition. Being at risk of extinction as well. And one of the things that I've learned in this program, and I'm so happy that I applied, is that conservation is not just about protecting landscapes and ecosystems, but about restoring relationships between people and the land. And it was a validating experience, a validating point, because it's one of the reasons why I applied to learn how to be part of a solution to not just deforestation in the Amazon, but really protection of really beautiful and I believe critically important knowledge for public health. And so that's why I'm here, and I'm so glad I applied. I'd say a few reflections. Number one, the team is pretty remarkable. As Maria mentioned, the LT staff are incredibly helpful and responsive, and the instructors are pretty remarkable as well. Folks with decades of experience of applied conservation, and that's how I would describe this program. Coming in as a blank slate of what kind of tools do you need in order to be effective, and so. I learned almost an entirely new language over the last 6 months or so. And any advice I'd have for folks coming in that are not necessarily in the conservation world, or maybe that you already are, is to lean into the learning curve, because the team is here to help people be ready to contribute and be part of the solution to deforestation and global climate change, and are here to help us be ready to contribute to a collective effort. And so lead into that.
Thanks, Jesse. I love that we have the variety of experience of you and Mario on the call, just coming from really different motivations for the program, but both finding a really beneficial experience. So I think this is just a great wealth of experience to share with everyone today. So Anna, I'd love to pass it to you next to answer the same question. Just tell us a bit about yourself. You are a past participant, so you can speak to the full range of completing the program. And we'd love to hear from you one piece of advice for prospective applicants.
Thank you so much, Liz, Avi, Gillian, and what a pleasure to share this panel with Jesse and Mario. Muchas gracias. Speaking in Spanish as well, I'm Peruvian, but I have the chance and the privilege to live in Madagascar for the past 3 years and a half now. My name is Ana G. Soto, and I work for CIFOR-ICRAF, supporting the coordination of the GFLx network at the Global Landscape Forum. This is a network of organizations, local organizations doing restoration and conservation. And my academic background is in communication for development. So could you imagine how was also using Jesse's word about learning a new language, something that the communicators or communication professionals, we should learn how to translate conservation aspects when working with communities or when trying to engage communities in conservation strategies of an organization that is trying to establish their missions and goals in the landscape. So this course indeed helped me to organize thoughts, to organize the different insights that you can have from the social science perspective and bridge the social science and the natural science as well. Something that Jesse commented that truly resonates with me as well is that conservation at the end is about people living in their landscapes. So we might have myriad experience in perhaps practical or empirical way. And my participation today is indeed to encourage those that are not necessarily coming from environment or ecology or biology background in the academia, but indeed is for us to use this opportunity to go through the different concepts, frameworks, methodologies about how can we make restoration and conservation with lasting impact, where the knowledge, the articles, the lectures can help us to understand the dimensions, how can we strategize better, which other aspects we couldn't see because of our capacity and understanding now can become more relevant and visible thanks to applying standards like the conservation standards, which was another topic that I really learned in this course, in this program. And at the end, understanding that the most impactful or successful conservation strategies and programs are those that are actually informed by different perspectives. And this is what this program help the participants to get to achieve, is putting yourself beyond your academic or practical standpoint and bringing those dots together. So yeah, this is in a nutshell what I experienced here. Over to you, Liz.
Thank you, Anna. I feel like you so well described the not just interdisciplinary approach of the program, but really transdisciplinary. So bringing in different disciplines and also bringing in different knowledge systems, practical knowledge, local knowledge, indigenous knowledge, and bringing all of that into the curriculum that's developed for the program. So thanks so much for sharing that. Before we dive deeper into the capstone, Mario, I wanted to come back to you really quickly. If you had something come to mind when you think about like one specific aspect that you deepened your knowledge on, what would that be?
Yeah, sure. Well, there are many aspects, but I think I want to mention two. Excuse me. So I already have some how you say previous knowledge, right? So what is going to be learned? What's going to be new that I'm going to learn for me, right? So
Mhm.
I think there are two things that help me a lot, and is that in my mind experience, I have a range of restoration strategies, right? And I said, well, what I'm gonna learn from that. But I think one of the main learnings was, well, first of all, one thing is saying, okay, I'm gonna start an agroforestry system, right? But I think understanding the ecological element that you have to consider before you start, what are the conditions of the area in terms of degradation, the degradation level, the impact, and what are the new conditions that you are facing now to be able to restore that land with agroforestry or with new forests, right? So I think that was very, very important to me. And that's basically what I'm going to try to apply also in my Capstone project, because in the area we are, I'm going to tell you more in a little bit. We have a lot of information and plenty of ideas, but there are some elements that I have been learning on the core that hasn't been implemented yet. And I hope that it's going to actually reinforce the action that they are implementing here in Costa Rica in my Capstone area.
That's great. Thanks, Mario. So next we're gonna hear more from you about those capstone projects. So, as Jillian covered in the overview, the capstone project is a major part of the online certificate program. From moment one, program participants are encouraged to think about how the content they are learning applies to a specific landscape or region. That could be a place that they're already living and working, or an area of interest, or somewhere they've worked in the past. And participants use this project and its context to practice each of the strategic planning tools that they're introduced to and practice during the year through the capstone course. Some participants are engaged in projects that directly relate to their work and lives on the ground and places where they live, and others live outside the tropics but work on projects with key partners through their current or past connections or connections facilitated by our instruction team. Some of the most frequent questions we get about the program relate to this capstone project. So asking, what is it like? What are some examples of projects? How do people have different connections to their capstone projects? So that's what we're here today to dig into and to give you a glimpse into the three projects that Anna, Mario, and Jesse are all focusing on. So I'd like to ask our three panelists to share about their projects. What did you focus on in your project and why? And for Anna, who has already finished the program, how has your work on the project impacted you? So Anna, I'll start with you. Tell us a bit about your project and how you chose that project, and now what that implementation or application of that has looked like.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. Well, I would say when I heard about the Capstone project, even when these seminars are really helpful because it's to avoid um, getting panic about about that. It seems that 10 months you have to implement a conservation program so that you can actually get the information, but no, it's not that way. Um, I just take advantage of living in Madagascar and living really close to the Makira National Park, where a sister organization like Wildlife Conservation Society is implementing, I think, 30 years already, a conservation program in the area. So when you have a well-established program with great professionals already working on that, you might think that doing or revisiting the strategies can not be of use. But indeed, I use the opportunity for being this external reviewer to check how these conservation strategies were shaped, and also see if there is room for improvement. Even when you are doing great things and you have the best intentions, there is always room for improvement. And this is what the capstone helped us to develop, this skill of being even more analytic, is the opportunity to contribute with evidence, because you need to do a lot of research. You need to do some interviews, review the material, review their existing conservation strategies as well, and also go and speak with the people involved, not only the people implementing the strategies or conceiving the strategies, but indeed the people that is actually living in the landscape that is going to make those strategies sustainable or not, right? And then I think the Capstone project is a way for challenging us to leave the desk and go to the field and revisit, really put our mind deeper into the situation. My capstone was about fostering community ownership for protecting or ensuring livelihood and the unique biodiversity in the Andaparati village. It was the village, the sector that I chose among this wide scope that this organization has in the area. So most of, and maybe Mario, you can also comment on that, most of the international conservation organizations are so focused in, the biodiversity tools, some community engagement activities, or applying conservation technologies, of course, the partnership, relationship with the government, and so on. But there is little investment in time, resources, people in strengthening governance and as well in addressing, like I said, the most basic expression of our human beings, which is our behavior. At the end, individual behaviors becomes collective practices, and those collective practices are how we treat, manage, and sustain our landscape. So those activities, those aspects were something that I could dig deeper thanks to applying the situation model, the conservation standards, and the whole framework that the capstone they're asked to apply when doing our capstone. At the end, it was very interesting to actually assess that the way that this organization is doing in the landscape is really great. I mean, they are also very science and evidence-based, and they are also continue improving their approach, and at the same time trying to contribute from the perspective that the human aspect is still something that we need to invest, and sometimes it is not as quantifiable as the other numbers, like forest coverage, hectares of restored land, but how people actually embrace conservation, what the people that not necessarily was invited or agree on creating a protected area is indeed embracing a conservation mission or a conservation vision, or how families decide that a given way to generate income is now the way that they want to embrace as well. So those human aspects were something that I focused on when doing my capstone, and I felt grateful as well for not only the findings but also the whole experience of putting myself to go through this process. Over to you, Liz.
Anna, thank you. Next, I'll pass it to Jesse for the same question. If you could tell us a bit about your capstone project, why did you focus on that? And how have you taken aspects of the courses that you're learning and applied it to shape that capstone project?
Sure. Thanks, Liz. So my capstone project is focused on ethnobotany, which is the relationship between humans and plants and ecosystems, the natural world, in the Ucayali department of Peru, specifically in Coronel Portillo, which is the region where the Shipibo-Canibo indigenous community calls home, and as well as a number of other indigenous communities that have a rich history of ancestral plant medicine knowledge and wisdom. And our my capstone project focuses on a few things. It focuses on working on strategies that restore indigenous equity and reciprocity to their landscape and forest management responsibilities and relationship It focuses on utilizing modern carbon finance mechanisms in order to support ecosystem services and indigenous livelihoods in a non-extractive fashion, in a reverse colonial fashion. So how do we create greater reciprocity and equity and benefit sharing amongst local communities through the carbon market, which is an interesting hypothesis and challenge to think through, but I think an important one. And man, I've learned so much. The Capstone project has been an experience of learning how to mentally frame and account for the number of key variables that are necessary in a successful project. And you start with a simple vision, and that vision over time grows into a map. You're kind of building a map of where are the pitfalls? Where are we? First of all, where are we going? Who do we need to work with? What are the challenges what are the targets that we want to address in this project? What are the challenges to these targets being successful? And then how do we address those targets? And so you start with this narrow view, and over time it grows into a roadmap that you can use as a practitioner to make an impact and to achieve your target. And I think that's been one of the most empowering experiences of the program, is feeling like you have a real sense of how to start. Coming from someone who's new to this space, that's a major takeaway for me. And so yeah, I would say the situation model being the centerpiece of the capstone is going to give you a sense of empowerment of how to account for all the number of variables, so you can chart yourself a pathway. Now, although I'm not actively, I don't have any live conservation projects, as I'm still in my current field of mental health advocacy. A number of my classmates have commented about how their own projects have materially been impacted and improved through the capstone process of coming back to their own project teams. Look, we need to implement these tools in order to increase likelihood of success and improve our projects. And so it's been really encouraging, as someone new to the space, hearing from folks in the program who are bringing these tools back to their teams to great success.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse, and thanks for highlighting coming from a really different place in terms of your connection to your capstone project, right? So it's really based in your own interests, really tied to your learning goals, but not an active conservation or restoration project that you're implementing currently. So that's a really good example. And we often have a number of participants in the program that, similarly are applying things to a context and learning strategies and the approaches for project planning that are really useful, but not a direct project they're implementing right now. So thanks for sharing that. Mario, let's turn to you. Let's hear about your capstone project. How did you choose what you're focusing on and why? And how are you taking what you're learning and applying it to that project?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Liz. Well, my capstone project is based here in Costa Rica, in the area where I live. So I basically wanted to since I'm gonna use my time for this, I wanted to use it to see how can I collaborate to improve the conservation actions in the area. So I'm working on a biological corridor in a place called Turrialba, which is about an hour from the Pacific coast. So 0 meters above the sea level to 3,800 meters on the highest mountains. So it's a very diverse range of ecosystems and weather conditions, so very intense biodiversity area, but also super impacted, since the colony times. So there's already a committee that is working on the corridor, but it's on a standby. So when I was looking for my capstone, I was asking guys, why is on a standby? And they say, we don't know. I don't know. Sometimes we just get, how you say, cold feet, There's some reasons, but for different reasons, but we are not being active. So I talked to a couple of the stakeholders that are involved in the committee, and so they basically suggested maybe work on that. We give you the information that can help us to reconnect again, right? So it's a traditional focus, in terms of conservation targets. So it's basically conserving what is conserved, restoring where areas that are possible to be restored to increase connectivity for small mammals, sloth, monkeys, birds, and also for water protection, for drinking, drinking water, fresh water for domestic use. And also there's a important watershed here that has about 5 dams. So it's very important for hydropower. So the action happening, in the area basically affect, soil erosion that goes to the dams and that reduce hydropower productivity, right? So two main focus, water protection around soil management and then restoring the area for connectivity. Um, and yeah, so that's basically what I choose here, right? The same area where I am. And also because the committee was already there. So my idea was, okay, whatever we do, I'm passing the torch to them, right? Or work together on whatever could be next, because part of the idea is trying to use the information from the capstone to support the development of proposals, to get access to, for more funding to do, actions on the ground in the area. And yeah, a lot of learnings. I think it have been helping to identify gaps. They have been doing restoration actions in the very simplistic traditional way, which is, oh, you got trees, let's plant the trees over there. We already identify an area. They at least have a map where they think restoration should happen, but it's very classical restoration action. So I'm helping to identify gaps, to suggest different approaches on how to plant those trees, not just let's plant the trees, but let's do an assessment on what kind of trees and, density of planting, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that have been helping a lot. And then the idea is also to support understanding what connectivity means for them, because they talk about connectivity, but it's basically physical connectivity. So thing that we have been learning with, function biodiversity or functional biodiversity and so on is that, okay, so what are we connecting, right? So trying to identify what could be a species, that could be an umbrella to indicate that a landscape is really being connected, not just through forests connecting together, but that, animals are using that, or bees or birds, etc. And then I think the last one, just to mention that whatever could happen is that talking with all these stakeholders, now they are actually deciding to create a foundation to support a sub corridor inside the corridor. So I'm also going to help them, to create that foundation and hopefully, support it during initial steps. So yeah, it's been wonderful. There's so many, options to apply your knowledge, and especially you can get access to stakeholders on the ground.
Thank you, Mario. It's so interesting to hear about this collaborative approach you've taken to designing your capstone project. I could talk to y'all for a long time. Your work and your interests are so interesting and exciting, and it's been wonderful to hear about your engagement in the certificate program. But with that, we'll wrap up, and I'll pass it back to Abby.
Great. Thanks, Liz. And thank you to all our panelists. It's really, as Liz said, so interesting for us to hear from your perspectives, both during and after the program. But I do want to move into the Q&A. We are running a bit short on time, so I think we'll only have time for a question or two before we end with some closing announcements and other details on how to apply. So very quickly, I wanted to address the question we had about payments. So we do offer the option to pay in installments for the tuition. This can range between paying at one time, paying in 2 installments, but we do also offer some flexibility. So we kind of review this on a case-by-case basis. and are willing to work with our participants to make sure that they are able to make their payments and ensure that they're meeting their deadlines there. So there are options for that, and our team is happy to discuss that further based on participant-specific situations. The next question I do want to address to Jillian, if you'd be able to answer this. I know we talked a little bit about this earlier on, and we heard from some of our panelists, but one of our attendees today was asking if this course would be suitable for someone who does not have any background in conservation or forestry or anything like that, but is now working in the environmental sector. And if there are any gaps that you would recommend that they fill before joining the program. Jillian, I know that's a lot, but if you wouldn't mind speaking to that a little bit, that'd be great.
Sure, I can speak to it very briefly, but then we can turn it over to our participants too, because both Jesse and Anna touched on this, and yeah, so you do not have to have a background in conservation, ecology, or forestry. People come in with very different backgrounds. In the application process, you should be able to articulate what you're doing now in the environmental sector and how the different specific themes and approach of this program will help you get to where you're looking to go. And so you can explain your background, you can explain what you're doing now, and you can explain your motivation, and that should be sufficient. So we don't require any specific prerequisites before actually joining the program. Each week is a different theme within the different overall courses. So some people come in and, like Mario explained, they have a whole background in this, but are looking to update. But other people come in and they may have experience in some of the course themes, but definitely not all of the course themes. And so every week that you have access to content, it is approached as if you may not know this information. That said, some people who come in with less environmental background, sometimes what we recommend is that they be prepared. They might need to put in a little bit more than the 6 hours of work if they need to like pause, start, or stop some of the videos to say, okay, like, wait a minute, let me see if I understand that concept. I'll dig in a little bit deeper, or they can reach out to our team for support. So that would be my overarching answer, but maybe could I call on Jesse to see if you have any recommendations for this person?
Sure. Thanks, Jillian. Yeah, I'd say the program itself is structured in a way where it sequences information really well. So for someone new to the field, I felt the fundamentals course was the foundation that I really needed to begin to speak the language. I mean, quite literally every week there's a glossary of new terms to be incorporated into your vocabulary and to acclimate yourself to the typology of the material, which is incredibly helpful. I agree with Jillian's assessment of giving yourself a little bit more time if you're new, so that you have a bit more time to digest and re-reflect. I spend a lot of time taking notes by hand because that's how I learn, doing that. And I'd say as far as gaps to fill beforehand, I would say just to lean into the passion that you have for an interest that you have in particular conservation targets, and just to reflect on that, because that's all I really needed, and to come in with and committing to the course material has filled the gaps itself.
Thanks,
I hope
Jesse.
that's helpful.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Jesse.
Thank you. Thank you both there for the response. I want to be mindful of the time here. We have about 2 minutes left. And so I think that'll be all for our Q&A today. We are happy to respond to any additional questions over email. I'll share that with you all in the chat momentarily. But we do have a few closing announcements. So as a quick reminder, the application is coming up in just under 1 month on March 25th, 2026. We do have the full application calendar available on our website. So you can visit environment.yale.edu/certificate/applications panelists.tropical/admissions to review the application requirements in detail and apply by March 25th. Prior to applying to the program, we do recommend that you review the program dates, the curriculum and program details, the application requirements, and the technical requirements. A brief overview of how to apply. You do have to submit the online application form, a resume, one personal statement and 2 short response statements, a scanned or electronic transcript, and a professional reference. If you think it will help your application, you are also welcome to submit these optional materials, which include documentation of additional coursework or your official TOEFL or IELTS test score reports. But these are optional and you are not required to submit this information. A couple of tips I want to share with you all before we sign off here. So first, I do recommend that you review the requirements and begin gathering your materials early on in the application cycle. You should also contact your professional reference ahead of time. Pay close attention to the essay requirements and be personal and specific when you're answering the prompts. And lastly, like I mentioned, we encourage you to contact Tropical Certificate at yale.edu if you have any questions or technical issues during the application process. And so, like I mentioned, we do have some additional learning sessions coming up. We do have a coffee chat tomorrow at 9 a.m. and another participant panel on March 11th. You can use the QR codes here to register for these sessions and speak directly with a program mentor and other prospective applicants at the upcoming sessions. Again, I'm going to drop some links in the chat here so you can visit our website to learn more about the program or email us to schedule a one-on-one call with our program mentors. And you can also sign up for our mailing list to receive some additional program updates. So with that, I would like to thank our panelists once again for joining us today and sharing insights with our prospective applicants. And of course, thank you to all the attendees today for your time and attention during this information session. Our team looks forward to receiving your applications soon. Thank you all. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Great
Ciao,
to
you
see
thank
you
you.
all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.